ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So this verse is describing about the disposition of Lord Shiva. Tam Brahma Nirvana Samadhim Ashritam. Lord Shiva is absorbed in trance, Samadhim Ashritam. In that trance, he is in the state of Brahma Nirvana, Brahmananda. Vipashritam Girisham Yoga Kaksham. It is also described that he is in saffron garment, he is wearing saffron garment, as indicated by the word Yoga Kuksha. He is also described Salokapala Munayo Manunam Adyam Manu. He is the foremost of Munis, thinkers. And to such a great personality, Pranjalayaha Pranemuhu. These great sages and the demigods who went there to Lord Shiva offered their respects to him. So, there are few very important things which Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport. Just like Prabhupada is explaining about what is this Brahma Nirvana, or what is this Brahmananda. As per the Vedic literatures, there are varieties in the spiritual life. But in one sense, anything spiritual is called Brahman. To distinguish it from matter. Sarvam khalau idam Brahman. It is stated in the Vedic literatures that everything we see actually is Brahman, spirit. It is matter because of ajnana. So when the living entity is in ignorance, the energy of the Lord, which is utilized for sense gratification, becomes matter or material. And thus he becomes entangled. When a person, his ignorance is removed, he understands nothing is material. Everything is the energy of the Lord. And when he utilizes everything in the service of the Lord, it regains its spiritual quality. That is why it is called Sarvam Khalo Idam Brahman. Actually it is Brahman, it is the energy of the Lord. Nothing is material. It is material because of our ignorance. For an advanced devotee, nothing is material. He sees everything connected to the Lord. It is material when it binds us in this matter, in this material world. That is called material. When it is acting to liberate us from this bondage, it is spiritual. It has regained its spiritual nature. That is what we have to understand. So in that sense, Brahmananda is used. There is another sense of using Brahmananda, is in the context of understanding it to be different from the Ananda which is enjoyed by devotees and the Ananda which is enjoyed by impersonalists. So impersonalist Ananda is called Brahmananda. Whereas devotees, they enjoy superior pleasure than even Brahmananda. When we are entangled in the material world, actually there is no Ananda, there is only suffering. When we become released from this bondage, the Ananda which is observed, being released from this suffering, is called Brahmananda. But when one advances further, he understands that simply being freed from matter and identifying myself with spirit is not enough. I have to engage positively in the service of the Lord, and that Ananda is called devotional Ananda, Sat-Chit Ananda. Brahmananda is not permanent. It is described as a state between matter and spirit. It is just like when you are sick, you suffer. When your sickness is over, you feel relieved. And that relief is perceived as happiness. But how long one can sustain that happiness of being relieved from suffering? Correct? Suppose you had headache, or you have stomach ache, you are having a dysentery. One whole day you are suffering, lying down on the bed, suffering like anything. And when your disease is over, you become very relieved. You become very happy. See, I remember when I was in my childhood, I think somewhere in 8th or 9th standard, as far as I remember. So, government was distributing some tablets that, different tablets they will distribute so that some epidemic or something is going on, we will not suffer from that, cholera or something like that. So, when I took the tablet, it reacted and I got dysentery. So I could not approach the doctors in time. And for 2-3 days, body was completely dehydrated. And then when I went to school, I fell unconscious. And then somebody lifted me and they took me to the hospital. And I remember my mother crying, father crying, and doctor also said that very less hopes, cannot say anything, because his whole body has become dehydrated. So with saline in the ambulance they took me, and for nearly more than 20 days I was there in the hospital. For first 5 to 7 days I was bedridden. You can imagine, cannot walk out of the bed, eating, sleeping, everything, only on the bed. After I was released, the whole world looked completely new. You can imagine, so much seeing only patients, so much suffering in the hospital, isn't it? And then when you're relieved of that suffering, that relief gives you some kind of pleasure. Just like some exams are going on and you're tensed up. In a student's life we find. And when that exams are over, he finds so much relief. And that relief is perceived as happiness. This is called Brahmananda. When one is relieved from the sufferings of material existence. But this does not last for very long. How long you can enjoy not being suffering? Every day are you enjoying? Oh, today I am not having headache. Today I am not having headache. Suppose you were having headache one day before. That day you enjoyed. Wow, finished. My headache is over. Isn't it? But how long? So this state of happiness, of Brahmananda, being relieved from material suffering, is actually temporary phase. If a person does not take to positive activities, there are every chance he will fall sick again. Isn't it? So similarly, Brahmananda is just a relief from material bondage. But if we do not positively engage our senses, our attachment is not transferred from matter to spirit, this phase will not last for a very long time. But here, this Brahmananda which is mentioned, it is in general term, it is called spiritual happiness. And it is described that Lord Shiva, he is in trance. And what is he doing? He is thinking about the Lord. He is talking about the Lord. Samadhi necessarily does not mean one has to close his eyes and sit. Generally, in general terms, Samadhi means we think something like a person sitting like this and is closing his eyes. Probably he is sleeping and we are thinking he is in Samadhi. So Samadhi is not that physical state. Physical posture is not called Samadhi. It is a state of mind of a person. Prahlad Maharaj explains Samadhi means complete absorption in the Lord. in the thoughts of the Lord. So just like a person we find here, Lord Shiva, he was described as seen with Tarkamudra, and he is speaking specifically to Narada, and the subject matter he is speaking about is devotional service, right? We saw this, and this is called Samadhi. Person's eyes can be open and he can still be in trance. It is not necessarily that one has to close his eyes and then only it is called as Samadhi. No. These are all external understanding of what is Samadhi, general understanding of what is Samadhi. So one can be completely absorbed in Samadhi when he is fully engaging his mind, his senses, his intelligence, everything in the service of the Lord. That is how we find. Bhagavatam is describing the state of Samadhi of Lord Shiva. His mind is absorbed in the Lord, his thoughts are absorbed in the Lord, his senses are serving the Lord. Everything is doing. Just like Prabhupada is explaining another word here. He is called Adya Munina. He is foremost of the thinkers. Now there is a difference between Lord Shiva's thinking and an ordinary Muni. Narad Muni is also called Muni. But there is a difference between an ordinary Muni and Narad Muni or Lord Shiva when he is compared to the greatest of the Muni. There is a difference. An ordinary Muni has not understood as of now what is the absolute truth. He is trying to reach the absolute truth by mental speculation. He is called an ordinary Muni. That is how it is said. Natas matis na bhinnam. He is not called Muni unless and until his theory, his understanding is different from another Muni, another person. Correct? So that means they are mentally speculating to understand. But Prahlad Maharaj has described, is it possible to get the Supreme Lord by mental speculation? He says no. He is called Adhokshaja. He is describing Samadhi as absorption in the thoughts of Adhokshaja. Adhokshaja means one who cannot be attained by material senses. One who cannot be captured by our mental speculation or material senses. They cannot reach him. Ordinary Munis are different. Lord Shiva is contemplating on the Supreme Lord and contemplating on different ideas about how to get the living entity surrendered to the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada is saying this. What is the contemplation of Lord Shiva? He is called Shiva because he is the most auspicious personality. He is called Bhutanatha because he gives shelter even to the downtrodden. So, he is thinking about how to deliver the living entities from this material entanglement, so much so that he is thinking about the most insignificant, sinful living entities like Bhutas and Pretas also. This is the significance of Lord Shiva's thinking, greatest of the thinker, because he is contemplating, thinking about the Supreme Lord, the living entities in connection with the Supreme Lord, how they can be delivered. And Prabhupada is giving the example The same thing we find in Lord Advaita, who appeared in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, who is also called as an incarnation of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. So, just like Lord Shiva, he is very compassionate upon downtrodden living entities. Advaita Acharya, he was very concerned when he saw before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent how people are engrossed so materially, and even if they are inclined spiritually, their inclination is only about some kind of external spiritual life. So he was very concerned that how it is possible that in this age of Kali, people can be delivered. So very compassionately thinking about the suffering of the living entities, not for his own self. He worshipped the Lord. He knew that actually the Lord, he is very pleased just by our sincere devotion. So he worshipped the Lord in the form of Shaligram with Ganges water and with Tulsi leaves, because these two are very dear to the Lord. And he appealed, he cried. Prabhupada says, it's like the word which is used about is hunkara. He called out the Supreme Lord, please descend. You see. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he descended on the call of Advaita Acharya. One of the very important cause of descent of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I have descended because of my devotee Advaita Acharya. It was his call. So, similarly we find Srila Prabhupada also was very, very magnanimous. Isn't it? Prabhupada took so much suffering, going through more than around, I think, 38 to 40 days of travel in cargo ship. You can just imagine one day travel itself, we become so fatigued. Next day, we will not even be able to get up and, Prabhu, very tired. 1 or 2 days chutti we will take. Very difficult. Can you imagine? At the age of 70, Prabhupada traveling for so many days alone. You can imagine. In the midst of ocean and heart attacks, no doctor, nothing. And still Prabhupada is thinking about, no, I have to carry out the orders of my spiritual master. Because of his compassion. This is a sign of these great personalities like Lord Shiva or Prahlad Maharaj. When the Lord is asking Prahlad Maharaj, you take some kind of boon from me, some kind of vara, I am very pleased, I am very happy with you, very satisfied. So first of all, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, my dear Lord, why are you, giving me pralobhana, some kind of, you're giving me incitement that I should accept. He said, I'm already born in Asura family. I'm surrounded by Asura. And over and above that, you're giving me some kind of thing, that allurement, that I take some material benefit from you. He said, I'm not inclined in that direction. Then he says, my dear Lord, if you want to give me something, please forgive my father. Out of ignorance, he always thought of you as his enemy. I know, simply by your touch he was purified, but still, I know that he was a great offender at your lotus feet. And he tried varieties of means to obstruct my devotional service unto you. So I know you are very unhappy, you are very angry at him. So my dear Lord, if you want to give me something, I would like to ask that please forgive me. The Lord said, Prahlad, in a family where a devotee, great devotee like you are born, not only his father, his 21 generations are liberated, so you need not worry about that. Your father, his forefather, your 21 generations are liberated. You can imagine the Lord is so kind that anyone who is associated with a pure devotee, even they become benefited. So you can imagine. So the greatest service one can render to his family, to the whole world, is by ourselves becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada wanted that. He said, I do not want stars, one sun, one moon. I would consider that my mission was successful if one person can become a pure devotee of the Lord. Because what is the use of thousands of stars? They cannot illuminate anything. One sun or one moon can illuminate the whole world, isn't it? So, this is what we can see, that Lord Shiva, his contemplation is about the living entities who are suffering in this material world. All these great personalities, this is their characteristics. And Vaishnava, that is how he is described, that Krupa Sindhu Bhevacha. In Krupa, he is compared to ocean. It's compared to an ocean. So, this is the description of Lord Shiva which is given here. We will see further in other classes. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vishwaguru Shiva Prabhupada.